Now let's welcome our guest speaker, Reverend Saijiro Matsuda Sensei. Hello!
はい。もういいんですか？
どうぞ。
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Long time no see. How have you been? And maybe for some of you, nice to meet you. I'm Saijiro Matsuda. Thank you for joining today. Let's have some fun together. Actually, this last year was kind of a nightmare for me. I was supposed to be there in Hawaii for the joint conference. Just too bad for me. Anyway, I'm still so happy to be back here finally, even though online, to join you here for this Zoom conference. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak about Kokoro Kubari, living with mindfulness. As for me, I believe that Kokoro Kubari for the Konko faith is kind of the process of looking for what Kami-sama might want us to do at a particular moment or in a situation and with the people we are facing. However, I will not try to make any deep dive into my definition here. I don't want to be dogmatic. Instead, I'd rather like to try to inspire our imaginations to approaching a real living with mindfulness. It's because I've come to realize at some point that we often fall into the trap of losing our heads about jumping straight into shallow definitions or answers. And as a result, we even seem to be misleading ourselves into staying away from our goals. Unfortunately, the hidden treasures we seek seem to end up with an illusion. And so why don't we try to have more fun to focus in on the process, not the end, of what we are looking for. So today I'm going to share 2 episodes from my life, but I will not so much go into the meanings of what happened. I'd rather leave the conclusions of what happened to me. I'd rather leave all of that up to all of you, because I want you to join in the process of looking on your own. And so now I have a request for you. It is an actor's request. I would like to ask each of you now to try and change your point of view a little bit to become who? To become me. That is, to become Saijiro in disguise. I mean, let's all try to put ourselves into my shoes. This could also be one of the first steps we should take in order to approach Kokoro Kubari. I'm really hoping this speech will turn out to be an inspiration for all of us here to find a way to understand what Kokoro Kubari, that is to say, living with mindfulness, is. Okay, first of all, let us all go back in time to the year 2000. That's over 20 years ago. I was still on the young side then. This was the year when I was sent out to Hawaii for the very first time. So now, and for a moment, let's all become Saijiro in disguise. Are you ready? Okay, soon after I arrived in Honolulu in 2000, I started going to the McKinley Community School for Adults, this in order to learn more English. And at this school, there were many types of students from different countries. So I was able to learn English, plus learn a lot about other cultures and human nature. And about a half year had passed by. One day, a big fight broke out at the school. there was a Chinese lady studying at McKinley who had become a troublemaker in our class. And what was even worse, she didn't care about it. And I also thought she was selfish and rude sometimes. So I knew that many people hated her. And up until this incident took place, we'd had close calls with trouble. But finally, the big fight broke out. At the time, including the teacher, we were talking about where we should go to get together for lunch. And the Korean woman suggested, why don't we go to a Korean restaurant? I know a very good one. And that sounded good to me and to other students. But unfortunately, then the troublemaker Chinese student came out big against the Korean student. I hate kimchi, she shouted and rushed away from the classroom. Oh, come on, give me a break, I was thinking. And all the Korean students there in the classroom got angry all at once and lost their tempers. So the Korean student who suggested the restaurant appealed to the teacher and to other students for some help. Teacher, she yelled with a really shrill, high-tone voice. I can't take it anymore. She really makes me mad every second of every minute of every hour of every lesson we have. And it's not just me. Everybody hates her. We can't stand her anymore. Please do something. Oh my God, I thought, what's going on? Well, our teacher listened carefully to the complaints of the student and said, all right, please calm down. I know you guys' feelings. Yes, I can understand your feelings. Even me, sometimes I want to stay away from her. But you know, maybe she just doesn't know how to behave and make friends. Have you ever thought of that? So I'll have a little talk with her. So please remain calm. And then all of a sudden, my teacher looked over at me and he put me in a spot. Saijiro, he asked, how come you and only you have been able to talk to her? I've been seeing you and only you talking to her. As a matter of fact, I'd never really thought about why I'm being able to talk to this Chinese woman most of the time with no problem, while all of the other students seemed to get angry at her all the time. However, I'd actually had a key of sorts that helped me. Do you still remember, by the way, the question I asked Fukushima Sensei, which was this? What's the bottom line of our Konko faith? What's the ultimate heartbeat of the Konkokyo believer? As I told you before, Fukushima Sensei answered in a flash. It's to be able to get along with anybody in the world. Yes, I was trying to practice this heartbeat idea about getting along, and this as an act of my faith at that time. And so I answered the teacher, because to me, she's kind of funny, I think. She's not such a bad person, I think. And I know it's very difficult for us to understand each other because we are all different. But even so, I want to try to get along with everybody in this class. And then it seemed the touch and go situation with the angry Korean students settled down a little bit. After the class, some other classmates came over to me and stood around me. while I was still sitting in my desk. They looked angry at me for maybe I seemed to stand up for the Chinese lady. But then one of them, who was from Iran, asked me, Saijiro, why are you so positive? For a while now, I've been wondering why Saijiro is always so friendly with a smile. Saijiro, everyone says that your optimistic ways make them happy. You are a little bit different from other people, Saijiro. Wow, I was really surprised to hear him say that. And I looked up around at their faces then and thought, hey, this is kind of cool. It seems like a little piece of the world. I was surrounded now by a lot of the people of the world. There was a businessman from Mongol. There was a wild lady from Kenya. There was a big guy from Samoa, a cute girl from Mexico, a nice lady from Taiwan, and this funny guy from Iran. And they all were looking so colorful and so unique. This situation also touched my heart really, because I felt like I was sitting at the bottom of the dent. That is what our founder Konko Daijin wrote in his memoir, like this. I felt like I was sitting here and they were standing around me.
Oh, could you
And as to this then, it is said that Konko Daijin received a message from Kami-sama as this. The bottom of the dent is where Konko Daijin is sitting and where he's waiting for people suffering. And in the long run, eventually, all kinds of hardships will be flowing down into this dent from all over the world. Have you seen this?
No.
Strange enough, I felt at this moment that like
Matsuda Sensei, could you raise the picture? We couldn't see the picture.
ピクチャーが。ごめんね。
Okay.
Okay, very nice. Thank you.
Okay. I felt like I was sitting here. Then they were standing around me. I felt like this. And so, so strange enough, I felt at this moment that like I was saying what Konko Daijin had been trying to say. And finally, at the end of our small talk, the Taiwan lady was kidding me with a devilish smile. Thank you, Saijiro. You are our father, Saijiro. Nah. Since then, even though the troublemaker student never did change, the atmosphere of our classroom did change a little bit. And from then on, we could get along a little better with each other. Okay, that's the episode 1. So far, so good. Now let's move on to the second episode. This event occurred about 2 years ago. Please try to continue walking around in my shoes. One day, a married couple in their 50s came to my church. They looked very sick and exhausted. According to them, they were very sensitive to the spiritual world and they were much in touch with the other side. And a couple of months ago to this day, they felt they were being haunted by ghosts somewhere. So they tried to look for a psychic medium person out of town and finally even found one to get rid of the evil spirits from their bodies. They received some spiritual treatment, which worked for the wife, but unfortunately, not for him. He continued to say, Sensei, it's been over a month since I've been so sick and dizzy constantly. I went to the hospital to have a detailed examination. but it showed nothing bad. I've also received some chiropractic treatments, massages, and a couple of healing therapies. However, nothing worked. Now I can't go to work anymore. I can't sleep almost at all. And I even feel that my body is becoming deadly heavy. Most of the time, all I can do is just lie down and rest. Please help me. I'm still under a curse, but I can't take it anymore. I hope that you can see the spirit and how to treat it. Yes, Sensei, you can do this, right? My, oh my, I hadn't ever seen any ghosts. And so I stared at the man really carefully, but I couldn't see or feel anything that I could now do to help him. So, chanting the prayer, Konko-sama in my heart, I was beginning to wait for Kami-sama. Maybe drop me a clue. And so because I didn't say anything in response, his wife kind of lost it. So she stood up and so she stood up and danced and said, "Hey, darling, let's go home. Sensei cannot say anything. I don't want to waste any more time." I felt guilty, actually, that I couldn't give any spiritual guidance. But then, at the next moment, and without leaving with his wife, this man made me a request. He asked, "Sensei, would you mind touching my shoulders? But you gotta be careful because the spirit inside me right now very easily could transfer its force from me to you. Even so, will you do it for me?" That sounded very, very fascinating. I was glad and thankful to Kami-sama for giving me a chance. Mysteriously, I felt as if I was being led by Kami-sama to step out of my Okekkai meditation place to get closer to him. I truly had no idea at all as to what would happen next. I just felt like Kami-sama was leading me to something that mattered. I first sat down beside him and offered a prayer toward the altar. Then I shared the Goshimai, the sacred rice and paper, with him to partake in together. And then I stood up to touch his shoulders and started giving a shiatsu massage. This I learned in Honolulu, by the way, from Mr. Fumihiko Inde of the Konko Church. But I wasn't really sure at that time if it could work for him. So doing shiatsu, I was praying and trying to make up an image like this. Coming through my hands and body, I'm getting the Mitama spirit sent back to Kami-sama. However, I didn't feel this way exactly. I even felt that the Mitama spirit was being welcomed by Kami-sama inside himself. Unfortunately, I was able to give him shiatsu for only about 5 minutes because other church members were coming in to visit. So we had to finish here since this couple didn't want to see anyone else. When I saw them off at the entrance, he told me, "Thank you, Sensei. I'm feeling a little better now." But I didn't really think so. And so I had to keep praying for him to receive divine blessings somehow. Next day, he gave me a call. At first, he was kind of wasting time and beating around the bush, but finally he confessed. Sensei, I'm actually losing my mind, to be honest. I'm puzzled completely. This is absolutely weird. Right after leaving the church, the traveling spirit just left all at once. Makes no sense at all. Can you believe that? I got over it so fast. It's not supposed to. It was just too soon. Sorry, but I didn't figure out what was going on. And as I little by little have gotten so much better, I've been able to go to work for the first time in over a month. I was so happy about this, but I still couldn't get it, what had happened. And so I had to wait if I could sleep. Thankfully, I slept so well last night. And when I got up this morning, I felt even better. But still, I'm so sorry, but I still couldn't believe if I really was cleared of spirits. And so I wanted to make sure if I could work today. And in fact, I've been actually working so good with no problem. I'm just fine now, Sensei. Wow, that's great. Happy for you, I said. Yes, thank you, Sensei. And I'm so shocked that Konko-sama is so awesome, he said. Oh yeah? I responded. Oh yeah? Come on, Sensei. How dare you say that was your power? You'd already known everything, right? You saw the spirit and knew how to treat it, right? He asked. No, hell no, I said. I had no idea, actually, or rather, I didn't feel anything evil. I just felt like Kami-sama was using me to help you somehow. What? He said. Kami-sama used you? Kami-sama used you to help me? That sounds so impressive, Sensei. Yeah, I think so. And this is actually one of the essences of our faith. Anyway, thank you for calling, and please don't work so hard and keep taking good care of yourself. Then we hung up. Nothing beats Konko-sama, I shouted in my heart. A few weeks later, he dropped by to tell me he was doing well and everything was going well. I was so happy too to hear him say that. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for trying to join me as Saijiro in disguise. Please now step out of my shoes. I really hope that you've now got something knocking on your heartstrings. And let me stop here. It's time now. It's your turn to share a review or a reflection. Whatever it is, it's worth sharing. And I think that some of you have already come up with their own definitions. But please, let us keep in our mind that those answers might be fine just for now. We are supposed to be always on the way to Kokoro Kubari, and it should be the never-ending process of looking for. Anyway, I believe that the more we share, the better able will we be to enjoy the process of getting closer to the door that opens out into the world of Kokoro Kubari, the world of living with mindfulness.
Me-centered. Okay. So today's world is very me-centric in that way. And so there was comments about how Kokoro Kubari is a dying trait in today's world. And this is a good reminder just to be aware and be mindful of it in our daily lives. And so there's also comments of our lives are a string of decisions. And so this person said, what would Kami want me to do? What would Kami want me to do? That's kind of like this Kokoro Kubari heart, this mindset. And he said it's also going outside of your comfort zone. It's kind of a stretch. You have to kind of take risks to go beyond what would Kami want me to do, because sometimes it's out of our obligation, sometimes it's We feel it's like something we should do, but we don't want to do. And so there's all these conflicts that go on in ourselves, but then you got to think about what Kami-sama wants us to do. And so this person also mentioned that he wished he could do more. There's also, there's been a homeless issue, especially in San Francisco. And what this person does is he allows the homeless person to sleep in the side entrance of the building. And because sleep is just so important for everyone. And so the person appreciates the homeless person being there because he's clean. He cleans up after his mess and it allows him to rest. So everyone kind of helps each other out in that way. And like I mentioned before, oftentimes Kokoro Kubari feels like an obligation. And so this person said, as a minister's child, we're supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to be doing that. There's expectations and obligations associated with our background. And so sometimes it's difficult to keep following through on those expectations. And also somebody said it really hits home to bring faith from the head to the heart, to bring it from the head to the heart, because oftentimes we intellectually know it, but it's difficult to really have that heart-mind connection. And so it's just about coming a little bit closer. Like the question is like, when you practiced or think you have practiced Kokoro Kubari, was it from your heart or out of obligation? And so these were some of the answers to that question. And so it's a slow, long journey, and it's important to not give up. It feels better doing something. And also, Kokoro Kubari is not only with living things or other people, but also inanimate things as well, towards things in our house, how we treat our car, our dishes, our home, ourself. And so Grace Sensei, Grace Kodama, Grace Sensei, she does the church yard goyo. She does it with all her heart. She never does a messy job. It's the sole purpose of doing the church yard goyo is to make Kami-sama happy, because this is Kami-sama's yard and building, and the facility needs to be clean. It's a reflection of her heart through goyo. And another person mentioned, not everyone wants to be helped. Not everyone wants to be helped. But sometimes the only thing we can do is pray for them. And that's one way of sending our spiritual Kokoro Kubari towards them, not only with just physical action, but with our spirit. And not everyone thinks the same. So you may have good intentions, but the other side may not be on the same page. And so nowadays, like I mentioned during the discussion too, when you try to help somebody who doesn't want help, they'll be suspicious. It's like, why are you helping me? Like, what do you want from me? Do I owe you something? I don't want to owe you anything. Don't help me. And so it's interesting how Kokoro Kubari or other people's help is not even easily accepted too. Another big one was mental health. It's Kokoro Kubari to ourselves. Because if we're not in a good mental state, we have no capacity to help other people. It's hard. You can't just turn it on. We have to have at least a baseline level of happiness, of hope, of peace of mind to be able to, I guess, reach out to other people. And so that's why it's so important to help ourselves. That's how we can start, is having Kokoro Kubari to ourselves. I think that's one good way to start this Kokoro Kubari mindset, to start with ourselves to get us in a better, elevated kind of mindset. And so it's kind of like, it was also thought about, like, it's such a big thing to do that. It's like eating an elephant. And so I remember this quote, somebody said, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so you got to eat the elephant just one bite at a time. So it starts with yourself, is the Kokoro Kubari. It doesn't start with about helping other people. It's about how do you help yourself first, and just keep moving from there. And it starts to build up, and sooner or later you're done eating the elephant. Again, respecting yourself before respecting other people. We really need to focus on yourself. So much goes into thinking about other people and pleasing other people and catering to their needs, your kids, your husband, your household. And so when we end up not caring about ourselves, is what one person mentioned as well. And so, the energy as well, you can feel when someone's energy is negative or positive. So keep that mindfulness open. And the last part is, I believe you can help some of the people, but as long as you feel happy helping people, that's what's most important, is what one person said as well. And then for the closing, there's a Konko Goyo work group at the Honolulu Church, led by Art Isaki. And he was talking about how there's a painter, mason, a metal worker, plumber, Well, and currently they're replacing the front fence of the Honolulu church, and they have come to meet every single Saturday since the pandemic. And so good relationships developed, and it's all, they're all on the same page. They're all about helping. It's all about helping the church, helping each other out, and what can I do to help? And so it's like a Kokoro Kubari group is how I see it as. And he said it was really interesting because all these journeymen, all 5 journeymen were all, it's like a blessing for all of them to have assembled every skill necessary to do everything they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie Sensei. Awesome presentation. English Group B, Gail, どうぞ。
Hi, okay, that better. I want to thank Alice for being our facilitator, and to our group for all of their thoughtful input. We had some good conversation. I think we kind of overlap a lot of what Rodney had mentioned, but I think for our group, people felt like in order to, what is your definition of Kokoro Kubari? It would be to see other people's perspective, to be non-judgmental, and to be considerate of others and have compassion for other people. Reaching out to people who may seem troubled. Someone mentioned that they tried to reach out to someone that never really responded when they would say hello. And after many, many tries of running into that person and attempting to reach out and say hello, finally the person responded, and then all of a sudden opened up and relayed that she had just gone through cancer, and she had all of these troubles. And so then in that way they understood why this person was kind of closed off to other people, so we don't know what other people are going through. They may be going through a lot of hard times, especially in this COVID time. And so we should be mindful of how we treat people, as we go on through our daily lives. Also, we feel that being mindful of situations and people will give you the opportunity to help people, to feel other people's hearts, and to think about Kami-sama's blessings, and to use that in your thinking to try and help people. And always from the heart. A lot of times we feel that it's obligation, but if you are mindful and you try to, I think, rely on Kami-sama's help too, and that Kami-sama will help guide you to be helpful to others. We're touching on homeless issues too, homelessness, and how at first maybe people are put off by the homeless or just irritated because they're coming around asking for money or food. But then with other people's perspective, rethought and now are praying for homeless people. And then one comment was that, the homeless people really are very resilient people. And in Japan, after the tsunami, it was the homeless people who offered blankets and comfort to those that were displaced. And so I think that if we look at it from that perspective and say, everyone is the same, we're all human beings, we all have our positives and negatives, that we can be more tolerant of each other and live together more harmoniously. And also just, I think in life, that we just have to focus on positive appreciation instead of worry, instead of focusing on worry, focus on positive appreciation and concern for others. Don't be afraid to rely on Kami. Like Sensei was saying in the story, that he wasn't afraid to put his hands on that person's shoulders and massage, even though there was a chance that maybe the spirits could go into him. But don't be afraid to reach out to people and to help people wherever you go. And I hope that I got the gist of what everybody was saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Group
C.
C, Wanda-san.
I have to laugh because the other two were so excellent. And I'm not used to being a reporter. I'm always talking and not listening. So this was a trial for me. But anyway, I felt that our group, it was interesting because we had people from Japan and local people, and also, you know, people from Europe, you know, who were in our group. So it presented a different view of, you know, Kokoro Kubari to me. But the main thing was that we all felt, like Saijiro Sensei said, that our faith has taught us to get along with everybody. Try your best to get along. And so that means you have to be aware of people around you, you know, care for them and not be so confrontational or whatever. You know, you try to get along and try to see them as they are, okay? And one of the examples that my husband and I do at home is that my daughter calls us some mornings about 3 times a week, and she asks us to pray with her on the phone. So we orally pray, you know, we say out loud. We pray for all the things that concern us and who we are thankful for, and people who have issues, you know. So we always pray for our families. And you should see now, we have a long list of people, including we named Gail's family because they're my family. And we include, and we start talking about everybody. And if they have to go in the hospital or whatever, we do that. And by talking together and praying together, we kind of pony back on each other, and we think more about them. And so we might pray more deeply for them. And another thing was, let's see, churches, the people in my group said that, you know, the Saishi prayer is supposed to generate the main crux of what we're praying for. But sometimes all family members can come to church and join in and pray together for some issues that they may have. And this was, I think, from Joanne. And let's see, in groups of prayer for people who have passed away, or, you know, are in the hospital, or they're caring for them. Okay, and the boy from Japan said he had Kokoro Kubari in daily ordinary things because he had a good friendship with his friend. And so he began to appreciate all the small things that his friend was doing for him. And then we moved on, that many of the women had, in America and in Japan and everywhere, have problems with caring for elderly parents, as I did years ago. But then they could see the things that having their parents around, even though they may have forgotten many things, or they're not as, you know, in tip-top shape, but they are still there for you, so you could appreciate them. And then you could use Kokoro Kubari, I mean, you know, caring and being mindful of them. And I think many of us felt that way. And then, but this, you know, is more like a woman's obligation. You know, many women feel obligated in this field of caring for their parents. And I was interested to hear that in Japan, you know, Ban Sensei said that when you're just like taught from when you're a child that you have to be considerate of other people, you know, you're obligated to be considerate. of everybody because they live in such a big, crowded community. But she said sometimes that can be so stressful when you have to try to think that you have to be nice to everybody in this crowded train or, you know, that situation, which I wasn't aware of. And, but then you still have to learn to overcome and be cheerful. And another person, wait, no. What I wanted to say about, based on what you learned today, is it possible to have Kokoro Kubari in your daily life? And also if, okay, and we said yes, because we are doing these things, engaging with people in our lives, like taking care of our parents and praying together, will help us to have a deeper understanding of each other and not take other people's time or for granted. And being kind is a part of Konkokyo, I think. That's why even many people say that, oh, they like coming to Konko Church because everybody is so nice, you know. So I think it is part of our time. And let's see. Well, I wanted to say so much more, but I'm sorry I'm leaving out some things.
Very good.
Okay. Sorry, they said more than that, you know, Joanne. Sorry, and sorry, Bon Sensei, and sorry, everybody in my group. But they didn't pay me, so sorry. Okay, you guys did a terrific job, Gail and Rodney. In fact, I was going to ask Gail if she could take my place until I found out she was a reporter. Okay.
Let's move on to the Japanese groups. Roy Sensei, reporter. Unmute yourself first, please. Unmute. I cannot hear. Mimi kikoemasen.
Oh.
Huh? You're doing sign language. Ask to unmute. There we go. There we go.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Our setup is okay, so let's see.
Yeah.
Japanese led by Reverend Yasuhiro. Did I actually mess up his name? Yasuhiro Yano. It was kind of nostalgic because it reminded me of the Dijikai days when he was the treasurer and I was the secretary. Anyway, okay. There was a lot that we talked about, but we had to begin, I think, maybe a first 1/3 with an explanation in Japanese for Kanaya Sensei due to the language thing. But despite that, Yano Sensei led us in I believe, a good conversation. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to try and do the condensed version here. We all agree that both of the stories shared by Matsuda Sensei were very good ones. Some of us even identified with a couple of one or two of those stories. Based off of that, we began sharing each other's definitions of what we thought Kokoro Kubari was. So in the end, the consensus is Kokoro Kubari in Konkokyo has a different meaning than the dictionary definition. This is, I believe, because of what Konkokyo teaches us. For example, this touches upon, I believe, what Rodney had shared too, but to try and help others, you first must have been saved yourself before you can hope to truly be able to save someone else, was one thing that came up. If your Kokoro Kubari is done in the wrong way, much as, say, in the old days when days and directions everyone focused on because you wanted to avoid problems, but instead accumulated offenses and led to the cycle of misfortunes, as is, for example, in the prayer book. You know, Kokoro Kubari done in the wrong or self-serving way is not what we're taught in Konkokyo. If our hearts are turned towards Kami-sama first, or as Mitsuko Sensei also shared, he prays to Kami-sama for guidance to ensure that her Kokoro Kubari is done in the right way, for the right reasons, so that the correct results will occur. Let's see. Oops, okay. Also, many of us really liked the how Matsuda Sensei and that man with the evil spirits, how receiving Goshinmai together, we felt was a big factor in the okage that was received by both parties. And we also, again, use your example of doing Kokoro Kubari the right way in a sincere, intense prayer to Kami-sama. That gives us the courage, gives us the right direction, and leads to true okage. And that's it. Time's up, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing, Roy Sensei. Now, Akinobu Sensei, Japanese Group B, dozo. I think just English is okay. Yeah, I don't think we need to report it in Japanese.
Oh, sorry, I cannot speak English. But... well, so the group, Japanese Group B, luckily we had Matsuda Sensei in our group, so we could ask more questions. And we started to ask questions to him, and I actually asked him because, you know, that currently because of the COVID-19, probably I'm going to hesitate to shake hands with hug people who are infected by the COVID-19. So I asked him, aren't you afraid if the, you know, the person who possessed by the evil spirit, you know, ask him, do you mind touching my shoulder? So didn't you feel afraid? And he answered, actually, he said, actually, I felt happy. You know, I felt grateful that he asked me, because as they're about to leaving, you know, I couldn't do anything to help them. I felt sorry, but he felt like Kami-sama gave me a chance, another chance to do that. So he didn't feel afraid. You know, he felt happier. You know, he felt grateful that he got another chance. And he didn't mention that in the speech, but he actually used the omiki and put his shoulder, and that's what he did. And then we kind of discussed about the definition of Kokoro Kubari, and we said Kokoro Kubari is more, you know, not you as a center, but or other people or Kami-sama as a center for, you know, for doing a Kokoro Kubari, and not only the people, but also the things and anything, even like materials and houses and natures and animals and everything around you can be a subject for the Kokoro Kubari. And again, you know, like Rodani says, Kokoro Kubari is more not from like a head, you know, about thinking what is good, what is gain, what's lost, you know, rather than thinking about, you know, from the head, but more from the heart, from the bottom of the heart. In Japanese term, there's a similar term of Kokoro Kubari, we call Kikubari. Kikubari and Kokoro Kubari, very similar meaning. Probably in English translation could be the same, but we kind of thought that Kikubari is more from the thinking, you know, from the head. Kokoro Kubari is more from the heart, and the heart, you know, facing toward Kami-sama. So like Matsuda Sensei helping those, you know, the person from possessed by the evil spirit, he did it naturally from the Kami's heart. You know, Kokoro Kubari is having Kami's heart, and our heart is facing toward Kami-sama. Therefore, doing Kokoro Kubari needs practice and training. And in our group have many Amagi people. So therefore, some sensei, Amagi no Sensei, the former head minister of Amagi Church, always said, Kokoro Kubari se nai kanzo, Kokoro Kubari se nai kanzo. You got to do the Kokoro Kubari because the Kokoro Kubari is a practicing faith. So Kokoro Kubari is same thing as practicing faith. So doing Kokoro Kubari also needs a practice. We have to be a person that Kami-sama can use us to help others. And we have to be able to see the people, not just the surface of the people, but also the inside of the people, so that we can get along with each other. So I probably didn't cover everything, but that's about it. And everything was done in Japanese. I have to translate back in English too. But, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all reporters for summarizing. You all did a wonderful, fantastic job and summarizing what you discussed in your groups.